Hey, what's up guys? I hope you're all fantastic out there. This is my review of the long-awaited sequel coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, Wesley Snipes, and many other familiar faces. This story takes us back to Zamunda as Murphy's Prince Akeem must return to Queens to find his long-lost son to bring him home so he can assume the throne. So let's get into this one to see if it can recapture some of that coming to America magic, or if it's sadly just another stale comedic sequel that took too long to get here.
That's right.
There you go.
Let me hear you say, hey, ho.
Hey, ho.
No, don't do that. That's his mother.
Oh, don't you say it.
No, not to his mother.
Now, in my opinion, in terms of comedic delivery, 1988's Coming to America landed a flawless victory, so I felt safe in assuming a sequel more than 30 years later would not land with that same amusing and comical impact. I was open-minded with this one though, and I hoped it wouldn't fall into the same depths as some of the other comedic sequels that were a day late and a dollar short, so as a huge fan of the first one, I can happily say this movie, despite not living up at all to the '88 classic, was still a good time for what it was. When diving into the positives, I would surprisingly enough begin with the fan service and the nostalgic self-awareness that was consistently on display. This movie at times felt like a celebration of coming to America, and with so many familiar faces returning back to their roles, this movie also felt a bit like a reunion on the big screen, which did create that appealing atmosphere that was familiar to the first movie. This sequel really knew what it was. It uses the nostalgic factor to its advantage with the charming use of all the old sight gags and catchphrases and supporting characters to deliver genuine and frequent feel-good laughs while also conjuring up plenty of old memories, from the barbershop crew to McDowell's to Hall and Murphy taking on multiple roles. It was enjoyable to see this movie really embrace all the coming to America tropes. I also loved the addition of Wesley Snipes and Akeem's three daughters to really expand on the world of the storyline inside of Zamunda. Snipes was able to deliver plenty of lighthearted intimidation and solid humor as well. He was his usual charming self, and as a huge fan of Snipes, it was great to see him back in another high-profile film, and I think seeing an aged Murphy with his wife and daughters was fun as well. They all have much stronger personalities than Akeem, and I thought it was pretty cool to kind of see how the family has changed after all these years. And more of the story being set inside Zamunda was another positive for me as well. I think this enabled the production design to visually really pop. The large detailed sets and just a sea of vibrant wardrobes all captured that fun, lavish splendor of Zamunda to lure the viewer in. I think it also allowed the story to expand a bit more into the dynamics of the royal family structure and the country, which freed this sequel from a reliance on returning back to Queens, which would have made this sequel feel instantly stale. As for Eddie Murphy, he was good. He had his moments of charm in the lead as Akeem once again, but he didn't have that same charisma that I remember from the character. But at the same time, I mean, he and the character are much older now, so while the lack of comedic energy in places was a bit of a bummer, it's kind of understandable. I also really loved seeing Arsenio Hall back as Semi, and I certainly think the sequel was able to recapture Hall and Murphy's natural comedic chemistry with great effect. Now, as for the drawbacks, like I mentioned, it wasn't as funny as the first, but that's an extremely high bar to set. But I will say there were some tired attempts at humor throughout this movie that just didn't work for me. There were solid laughs and moments that had me smiling, but there were also frequent comedic bits and scenarios that kind of had me rolling my eyes. I also think the foundation behind Akeem having this son was a bit lazily written. I think it was able to infuse the sequel with some fresh, fun characters, but it also completely undercuts the entire message of the first movie, and it was a bit unnecessary. I also think this forced the story to kind of try and expand on some scenes from the first movie using de-aging effects, and this movie clearly didn't have the budget for that because that element of the movie just looked a little goofy. However, in the end, I enjoyed it. It kind of puts on a show. It was a good time. It wasn't a great movie, but it was an enjoyable celebration of coming to America, and I'll give it 70%. I think it could have been a lot worse, but it does have its merits. It has a few too many dance sequences, and it probably wasn't the most necessary of sequels, but I think much like Bill and Ted did last year, Akeem and Simi this year show that sometimes a sequel to a great comedy just needs to kind of celebrate the success one more time without necessarily trying to rekindle the magic. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop it a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I'd love to talk movies with you guys. Share it with your friends, and without question, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can never miss a video. Here are some links to some recent reviews just in case you missed them. All my social media links and the link to our official website are down in the description below, and I'll catch you next time.